Welcome back to All This Math. This is Professor Parker. Make sure you're subscribed to the All This Math YouTube channel. Make sure you drop a comment down below. Make sure you like the video. All right. Make sure you like the video. Also, share this video with somebody else that you think might benefit from it. This is a video about fractions and math word problems that we're about to get into. All right. Let's first read the problem. All right. What does this say? This says that a big burger, that just sounds unhealthy. You know what I'm saying? Um, a big burger has 1/4 LB. What does LB stand for? LB is an abbreviation for the word pound. Pound. Not ounces, not kilograms, right? Pound. LB stands for pound. All right. Has 1/4 pounds of meat. A super burger, right? Notice the different adjective. You got big and then you got super. Big and super. All right. A super burger has 1/3, right? Don't say 1/3. All right. Just like up here. Don't say 1/4. Say 1/3, right? If 3 is your denominator, that means you got a third, right? 3 is your denominator, you got thirds. If your numerator is 1, that means that's how many thirds you got. You got one of them. All right. 1/3. All right. 1/3 pound, pound again, LB pound of meat. How much? How much more meat does the super burger have? So, all right, they already just told you that the super burger is heavier. It's got more meat in it, right? So the super burger has more beef in it, right? Or more meat, right? Now, this is the mathematical question, right? Or the mathematical language. How much more? How much more, right? How much more? When you see the phrase how much more, that indicates that you need to do subtraction. When you see how much more, that indicates you need to do some type of subtraction. You're subtracting one thing from the other to find the difference. The difference is a term we use in mathematics to describe the result after we do subtraction, right? How much more meat does the super burger have? So the super burger has more, right? And that's another thing we need to understand. 1/3 is larger than 1/4. We need to know how to compare fractions. And you need to know that 1/3 is larger than 1/4. Let's take a moment and talk about that real quick because a lot of students get confused with that because they say, well, how can that be? Because I know that 4 is bigger than 3. So how can 1/3 be bigger than 1/4? That's exactly why. It's because 4 is bigger than 3. Think about it like this. If you take a pizza, I always like using examples with pizzas. Take a pizza, right? A pizza is cut into 4 slices. Imagine how big the slices will be. Just take a moment, pause, think about how big the slices will be, right? If you got 4 slices of a pizza. Then you got another pizza of the same total size, but instead, this other pizza, you cut it into 3 equal slices. Now think to yourself, which pizza is going to have the bigger slices? Which pizza is going to have the bigger slices? The pizza with 4 slices or the pizza with only 3 slices? If you got less slices, that means each piece is bigger. That's why when you share things with more people, which is cool. We should share. But the more people you share with, the less you're going to have individually for yourself, right? Just imagine like in elementary school, your teacher orders a large pizza. It was already cut into 8 slices. But then, like a small child, you might have been in kindergarten or first grade. You don't need that much pizza, right? So they may cut each slice in half. Now that 8 slices just turned into 16 slices. So 16 slices, if the pizza is cut into 16 slices, each slice is smaller than when it was only 8 slices. So think about it. As the number of slices gets bigger, the size of each slice gets smaller. That's why 1/4 means you got an object cut into 4 equal parts and you have one of them. 1/3 means you got an object cut into 3 equal parts and you got one of them. These pieces are going to be bigger. That's why a third of a pound is more than a quarter of a pound, right? Because it's the same pound, the same 16 ounces. A pound is equal to 16 ounces, right? Using the British, measurement system, right? Pounds, right? So a third of a pound, a third of 16 ounces is more than a quarter of a pound, right? Because to get a quarter of a pound, you're going to do 16 divided by 4. That's 4 ounces. To get a third of a pound, you're going to do 16 divided by 3. Now, what's 16 divided by 3? That's like 5 1/3. 5 1/3 is more than 4. 5 1/3 is more than 4. 5 1/3 is more than 4. But that's a concept, though, that everybody looking at this video needs to understand. In a fraction, when you have a unit fraction, when your numerator is 1, as the denominator gets smaller, the fraction gets bigger. The denominator gets smaller, the value of the fraction gets bigger. That's why 1/9 is less than 1/3. 1/10 is less than 1/9. 1/11 is less than 1/10. You see the pattern, right? So yeah, I know that 11 is more than 10. 11, the whole number 11 is more than the whole number 10. 11 is more than 10, right? But 1/11 is less than 1/10. That's a key element that we all need to understand in mathematics. We need to understand it. That's real life, everyday math. If you don't understand that, you're gonna go to a store one day and get taken advantage of. Somebody gonna rob you. And I'm here making these videos to try to prevent that. I want you to be able to protect yourself and use math as a tool for protection. So don't run away from math. Because when you run away from math, the people that didn't run away from math, if they're dishonest, they're gonna use math as a tool to take advantage of you. And you're not even gonna know it. All right. So understand with fractions, as the denominator gets smaller, the value of the fraction gets bigger. That's called an inverse relationship. We'll talk about that in some of the algebra videos on the channel. All right. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and tell some people about it too. All right. So look, I already said we got to do subtraction because of this phrase right here. How much more? How much more? How much more meat does the super burger have? Super burger got 1/3 of a pound, right? The big burger got 1/4 of a pound, right? I'm trying to figure out where I got this word problem from. This joint seemed like it came from like the 1980s or something. I don't even dig it. But anyway, all right. So how much more means you do subtraction. So we're gonna do, and we know the super burger has more, so that means that's gonna be our menu end, or that's gonna be the first number in our subtraction problem or our subtraction equation. 1/3 minus the other burger, the big burger, which is gonna be 1/4. 1/3 minus 1/4. Now, something I always talk about, which is when we subtract fractions, we must have common denominators. What is a common denominator? That's when our denominator, the number at the bottom, number at the bottom, number at the bottom, is the same. 3 and 4 are not the same number. So therefore, we don't have common denominators, but we can make common denominators. What's a common denominator? That's a number that, well, really it's a common multiple in the denominator space, right? What's the smallest number that both 3 and 4 can multiply into? That's what you need to be thinking about. What's the smallest number that 3 and 4 can both multiply into? Right? Now, in this particular case, you might have a teacher that might tell you, all you got to do is just take the denominators and multiply them by each other, which is true. You could do that. And you could do 3 times 4 and get 12. You say, all right, 12 is a common denominator. Also, in this case, it just so happens that 12 is also the lowest common denominator. But that's not always going to be the case if you just multiply the two denominators by each other. In this case, we get lucky, or I should say it's a coincidence, right? That just multiplying the two denominators by each other is going to give us the lowest common denominator. It's not always going to give you the lowest. And what I'd recommend is finding the lowest, right? Whenever possible, because that makes the math easier, right? You want the lowest common denominator. And in this case, we do have that. So now we're going to write another fraction. We're going to rewrite 1/3 with a denominator of 12. And then we can do minus sign. We're going to rewrite 1/4 with a denominator of 12, right? Now, because our denominator changed, our numerator got to change. If your denominator changes, your numerator got to change. Denominator changes, your numerator got to change. Denominator changes, your numerator got to change. Now, this is how you figure out what the new number should be. 3 times what will give me 12? Oh, 4. Now look, if I multiply by 4 on the bottom, what I'm doing, what you think I'm gonna do up top? Multiply by the same thing. Exactly. Same thing. See if the alarm system knew. So look, 3 times 4 is 12. 1 times 4 is 4. Now, how did 4 turn into a 12? Multiply by 3. 4 times 3 is 12. If I'm doing that down the bottom, what I'm doing up top? Multiplying by 3 again. 1 times 3 is 3. Now I got common denominators. So now I got this many 12ths minus this many 12ths, right? I can't subtract fourths from thirds. What does that even mean? Like fourths? Huh? How are you gonna do that? That's like subtracting apples from oranges. That's like somebody saying I got 5 apples. Subtract 3 oranges from 5 apples. What are you talking about? Like you can't do that. Like that doesn't make any sense. But now we got common denominators. So look, I can say, oh, I got 4 oranges, right? 12ths are like oranges, right? In this scenario, and I'm taking away 3 oranges. 4 oranges minus 3 oranges leaves me with 1 orange. 4 12ths minus 3 12ths is 1/12. And I also want us to note that 1/3 is equivalent to 4/12. Just like 1/4 is equivalent to 3/12, right? 1/4 is 3/12. You know, 1 out of 3, 4 out of 12. They're equivalent. The numbers are different, but the value is the same. The numbers are different. 1/3, 4/12, but the value is the same, right? We need to know this. All right. So what does this mean? That means that under the normal circumstances, I'm not going to do all this up here, but I highly recommend students, when you're answering word problems, answer the question in a complete sentence. Don't just say 1/12 of a pound. Don't just say that. You would say, or one way you could say it is, how much more meat does a super burger have? The super burger has 1/12 of a pound more meat than the big burger. That's a complete answer. That's thorough right there. That's thorough. That's a thorough way to express it. All right. So we did our mathematics. We understood the problem. We did our subtraction. We converted our fractions into equivalent fractions with common denominators. We did our actual subtraction. And then we ended up with our difference. And then we also talked about how to express the answer in a complete sentence. All right. So, like I said, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not already. All right. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you drop a comment down below in the comments. If you didn't understand something that I talked about in the video, please drop a comment. Put your question in there, right? I'll address it as soon as possible. I may even do a follow-up video about your question in particular. Also, if you have a request for a certain type of video you like to see on a certain topic, put that in the comments. All right. Put that in the comments. Also, share this video with as many people as possible and get them to subscribe too. All right. See y'all on the next video. Peace.